Chad, welcome. Chad, welcome today to the return of office hours. I wish that I would be joining you under happier circumstances, but I'm happy to have you here regardless. I can see that there's going to be many of you here today, and it might be a little bit spicy in the chat. I know that this topic is tangential to many things happening in our current political climate, but if we can all keep it civil, if we can all keep it respectful, we will have some time for questions and answers at the end of my little technical presentation today. And we can talk about whatever you want. But today's stream, I don't know how long it's going to be, but we're going to do a little bit of a technical presentation about what's happening at the Chernobyl NSC, or the New Safe Confinement. As some of you may have known or may know, it was hit by what purports to be a Russian drone. And as many of you are wondering, no, the title is not clickbait. Right off the bat, there is not a danger of imminent excursion of contaminated material from the NSC. But what is worse than we think, at least certainly worse than what I thought, is how this single drone strike changes the entire future and the lifetime of the NSC, or the New Safe Confinement. As we go through everything that we want to go through today, as you can see at the top of the chat, appended to this very video is a fundraiser for the Clean Futures Fund, of which I am a part of. We raise money primarily, well, I focused on the dogs of Chernobyl, a very scientifically interesting group of large mammals roaming around the exclusion zone. But today, since its inception, CFF also helps the people in and around the Chernobyl exclusion zone and in and around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Thousands of people work at the nuclear power plant. And since the invasion by Russia, a lot of people are affected, and they can use all the help that they can get. So as part of our mission there on site at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, we're raising money today. All the proceeds from this video will go towards the CFF, or if you want to donate, I appreciate you extremely much. And I will just call out Robert Nahan for the 20. We had some way earlier in the chat. Thank you for this. Black Rain with another 50. Thank you, Black. That is very important to me. Thank you. There's a fundraiser. There's a typo in the fundraiser name. No, so that's the Ukrainian spelling of Chernobyl. So chat, I won't be semi-ignoring you, but we have a lot to get through today. And I want to give you all the updates from the site of Chernobyl. Again, we at the CFF have some exclusive information about what's happening at the NSC that hasn't been widely reported or reported at all. And I want to go through that today because, like I said, it was much more impactful than that single drone impact. So I know the music slaps, but let's get to it today, chat. So first of all, like I was saying, today we're raising money for the Clean Futures Fund, which not only supports the people in and around the Chernobyl exclusion zone, as you can see, literally the NSC, but also the pets in and around the exclusion zone and the wild dogs of Chernobyl. That's who we're raising money for today. But for all of, I know there might be a lot of new people here in the chat. Robert Richmond gifting $200. Robert, that pup's looking right at you. Thank you, Robert. That's extremely, extremely generous. Nathan, thank you for the 20. So for those of you who might be new to this channel, Chroma with the 50. Nathan with the 20. Anonymous with the 5. Thank you. So those of you might be new here, I'm a civil environmental engineer, but most of what I do in my day-to-day work is science communication. We also, we do silly things, silly videos, play video games, that kind of thing. But for the last couple of years, my life has been more or less taken over by nuclear topics, nuclear documentaries. I have been inside Chernobyl. I have been inside the NSC that we're going to talk about. I have been inside the Fukushima nuclear power plant. I've been inside 3 Mile Island. We go all over the world trying to tell these stories, and I'm happy to be a part of the CFF in continuing to affect some of these areas that have affected me so much. So if you're new here, in 1986, actually on Alien Day, that's how I remember it, February 26th, 1986, because of a dangerous test that was done on the RBMK style of reactor at Chernobyl unit number 4, as you see here. There was a power excursion, or a rapid increase in power, radioactivity, steam, and pressure, because the RBMK reactor has what you call a positive void coefficient. That is to say, when voids are created inside of the reactor, steam, it increases rather than decreases the reactivity of the reactor. Most Western reactors have a negative void coefficient. That's because water is the moderator. It's what makes the neutrons slow enough to continue the chain reactions. So if that water boils away, there's not water to moderate, and so the reactivity of the reactors goes down. But in the Soviet Union, they had graphite as a moderator, and so when the water went away, there was just less things to absorb neutrons, and more reactions happened until there was a catastrophic increase in power up to 100 times. As you can see, there was a tremendous explosion, multiple explosions that to this day aren't fully understood, but there was multiple explosions and then a multi-day inferno of burning graphite, nuclear material that, because of that, the updraft created by this multi-day fire dispersed nuclear material around the surrounding area. How a nuclear meltdown actually works is that the nuclear material gets hot enough that the fission products, or what happens after the atoms split, what they turn into, gets vaporized, literally. It turns into a gas, migrates according to the wind and the weather, and then when it gets cold enough or cool enough, it condenses back into solid material, and then it gets heavy enough to fall out. That is why it's called fallout. Okay? So that nuclear fallout spread over the surrounding area, and that's why the Chernobyl nuclear exclusion zone was created. Now, most of that contamination is cesium-137, but also what makes Chernobyl unique and what makes it the world's worst nuclear disaster is that because there is a giant explosion, uncontained, pieces of fuel or hot particles also are strewn about the area, literally pieces of fuel. I've seen some of those myself with my own eyes, and they are very scary. If you want to learn more about any of this basic information and background information, we have 2 or 3 full series on this channel about this. I have 3 videos from Fukushima. I was there. 3 videos from Chernobyl, also there. You can check that out, or our Half-Life histories. That's what happened in 1986. Today, Chernobyl is very different. There are thousands of, well, before the invasion, there were thousands of people working at Chernobyl every day. Chernobyl is not producing power, but it has ongoing safety concerns and remediation efforts for the surrounding area and the power plant itself. Actually, during the HBO miniseries Chernobyl, there was up to 1,000 to 2,000 people getting tours throughout the exclusion zone every single day. To get to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, most of the workers lived in a town called Slavutich, which you take a one-way train ride from Slavutich to the nuclear power plant. Since the invasion, that train has been shut down, which has implications for what we will get to in a little bit. So Chernobyl before the invasion was not the nuclear wasteland you may have expected it to be. In fact, you could tour it and be relatively safe, even though there are problems with how people have toured it in the past. We also have a video on that, how Instagram made it somewhat of a dangerous thing to do. But we have videos on that as well. So what happened during the drone strike? let me just get the most technical information I possibly can for you. Of course. In the early hours of February 14th, 2025, at approximately 1:50 a.m. local time, IAEA, or International Atomic Energy Agency personnel stationed at Chernobyl reported hearing an explosion at the NSC. The facility was constructed to prevent the release of remaining radioactivity from the Chernobyl disaster. Okay. So the NSC is the new safe confinement, and that was built to contain the radiation therein. Okay. But to really tell you, really impress upon you why this drone strike is worse than just poking a hole in some metal, we kind of have to go through a semi-technical discussion. Please join me. A semi-technical discussion of how this giant apparatus or edifice was constructed. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Anonymous. Thank you, Supelcom. Thank you all for all the donations. It's incredible. This is me. This video is called "I Got Access to Chernobyl's Deadliest Area." That's me. For context, that is the ambient level of radiation that I was experiencing. It's about 20 microsieverts per hour, which is roughly 200 times what it is where I'm sitting right now. I'm checking with my own Geiger counter here. So it's pretty spicy in there. And that will, the spiciness affects what's going to happen going forward. As you can see from, from the video, this is a giant area. The internal volume of the NSC is something like 1 million cubic meters. Okay, what you're looking at here is the sarcophagus, the initial and rushed coffin that was built around the exploded reactor, and then the NSC is what was built on top of that. Okay. There's a lot of technicality to this device, but to kind of give you an idea of how big this thing is here, what you're looking at, this dome is taller than the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty could fit inside this building. How does microsieverts compare to millisieverts? It's off by a factor of 1,000. A micro means 1/millionth, and milli means 1,000th. And the way you convert sieverts to rem is sieverts, you multiply by 100, and that's rem. Okay, so this thing is huge. It is also pretty technical. One amazing thing we saw was the actual gamma rays hitting our camera sensor as we were in here. But we need to know a little bit more about this structure of this facility to know why this was worse than we think. So again, this is over 300 feet tall. Incredible. It is huge. It weighs 36,000 tons. That's 36 million kilograms. That's crazy. But what we're really worried about, what the drone actually struck, is the outer shell of this edifice. Now, this arch is basically two main shells. The first is exterior cladding, which is made in a certain way to resist the weather, moisture, the wind, the rain, earthquakes, tornadoes. And then there's an interior cladding. And separating this cladding is an area about 16 meters across. So a very large area. So you have interior shell, you have like 45 feet, and then you have exterior shell. Now, the cool part about how this is built, and again, this gets to why this was worse than you think, this isn't just a shell. This is an airtight, this is the largest freestanding arch ever built in the world, and it's technical enough that it's pressurized. Okay, so going to another technical document here. So you have the exterior cladding and the interior cladding. The interior, this pink area you're seeing here, is actually positively pressurized with 50 pascals of pressure. Why? That is because if there's something that breaches the interior cladding, you do not want air possibly contaminated by radioactive dust or radioactive materials, you do not want it going into this area. So it's positively pressurized so that if you were to poke a hole, so to speak, air would come out of here like a balloon, like so air wouldn't come into this area. Okay. Not only that, this entire 1 million cubic meter space is negatively pressurized. So when I was there, you have to actually go through an airlock, like a dang space station. So when you go inside, you pull open a door and you hear a sound because it is negatively pressurized, so that if the entire NSC is breached, air again rushes in, but not out. So in that way, this interior pink space is acting like the atmosphere, as is the atmosphere outside. So that at each level, if you poke a hole in the first cladding, in the interior cladding, or the exterior cladding, the result is air rushing inwards. Okay? What if we built a wall around Chernobyl? That already exists. So in each case, air wants to go inside. Now, what is that actually protecting us against? First and foremost, what the NSC here, New Safe Confinement, is protecting against is the excursion of radioactive material. There are a lot of... Are ads supposed to be turned on, Kyle? Yeah, because all the proceeds of this video will be going towards the CFF, but I'll pause them from right here. Anyway, so what this gigantic arch is, which could, again, fit the Statue of Liberty. Wait, I think I have a better way to show you how big this thing is. Look at the size of this thing. This is me walking. Look. Look at how big it is. It's tremendous. It's absolutely huge. Okay. And now think about pressurizing this entire area. That's crazy. Anyway. So what is this actually protecting us from? There is still fuel inside the sarcophagus. We'll get to some of the information that hasn't been in the news yet in just a second. We're going through the technical discussion of why even a small drone strike matters more than you think. So just give me a minute, okay? There's still dust inside. Now, when fallout occurs, it is literally atoms, fission products, falling out of the atmosphere, and it will adhere to anything. Small particles of dust and debris. And so if that is moving around, that can move around. And since cesium-137 in particular has a half-life of 30 years or so, it's only been about one half-life. So there's still radioactive dust possibly that could possibly be moved around in there. And there's still fuel in there. So first, this negatively pressurized gigantic dome is preventing the excursion of radioactive dust and debris. And that's why there's also dust suppression systems in there going 24/7. They're actually quite loud. It's like, wow, wow, wow. Secondarily, this gigantic dome is basically creating a standoff distance at which there is a safe level of radiation if you are outside of it. Okay. So the first thing, radioactive dust and potential debris from the sarcophagus. Second, it keeps people literally far enough away such that the radiation dose isn't a problem. Now, it's not a problem unless, let's say, you had to work on it for an extended period of time inside of the dome. Okay? So, when you're inside, and this is important for later, when you're inside of the NSC, like I said, the ambient level of radiation is around, well, how I experienced it was around 20 microsieverts per hour, which is 200 times higher than where you're probably sitting now, unless you're standing. All the information that I'm about to tell you about what's going on now is from an insider, one of the science advisors who works with the CFF, who I've chosen to keep anonymous for safety reasons. I think you'll understand that. But he told me that areas around the NSC, even closer to the sarcophagus, can get 5 times higher than this, like 100 microsieverts per hour. Now, that's like Fukushima Daiichi. That's like near those failed reactors. That's that level. 200 times higher than background isn't dangerous, as hand planed. No, not if you're only inside for 15 minutes like I was. But let's say that you had to work on something for years, every single day. Okay. There's also what you should know. Inside, you see a lot of scaffolding in and around the top here. And this is a gigantic crane system that over time, it was planned to slowly but surely, like my cursor here, slowly but surely dismantle the sarcophagus and deal with the radioactive material, probably storing it somewhere. This crane apparatus is larger in larger in square footage than like a 747. So it's a giant crane apparatus. Okay. And this would go like that. Now, what happened after this drone strike? Okay. Why is this worse than we think? Well, let me bring up some of the technical information from my insider chat. So what happened was the drone struck the northwest crane garage area at the 90-meter level. Explosion caused penetration of the outer layer and some damage to the inner layer of the NSC. It appears to be a Shahed 136 type drone. Engine photos seem to confirm this. There is why this was worse than I even knew about. There is a smoldering fire, even though this happened like 3 weeks ago. There is a smoldering fire that has compromised a very large area of the outer shell, with hot spots detected as far as 100 meters from the initial impact point. Sorry. The inside layer of the NSC remains okay right now. However, and this is super important to know, contamination is not currently escaping the NSC. But it's being carefully monitored. The damage to the membranes around the NSC could make contamination escape more probable in the long term, but right now it's stable. But this is a big problem. So there's still a smoldering fire inside the NSC as far as we can tell. This is why it's a big problem, and this was news to me when I talked to the CFF, who we're raising money for. Thank you for everyone who have donated so far. That's very cool. Can they fix the hole? That's what we're getting to. This was worse than I think, because you can't just fix the hole. According to my source in the CFF, as of 6 days ago, there is currently no consensus regarding how to proceed. They don't know what to do. Some are advocating patching up the NSC and accelerating the work on the sarcophagus, but the NSC lifetime is now compromised. Who struck Chernobyl, can't you say? All signs point to Russia after the invasion by Russia. Others are suggesting building robots to replace the outer panels. However, dose rates are too high to have people work continuously on the roof. Now, you start to see the problem here. It looks like a small hole, but it's not a small hole because, as we've gone through, this is a gigantic structure. And if there's continuous burning fire or possible excursion, you can't get people in to work on it for long enough because the dose rates are too high. NSC stands for New Safe Confinement. Finally, some, again, quoting my source here, some are suggesting removing the NSC back to where it was constructed to work on replacing the outer panels and insulation there. Now, that would be an absolutely tremendous undertaking. The NSC was initially constructed, some of you may not know this, it was constructed hundreds of meters away from the sarcophagus, and then this giant dome was slowly slid over the sarcophagus to its final resting place of 100 years. What benefits did this give to Russia if it was Russia? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. So here's a picture of the drone. Here's a picture of the damage to the exterior cladding. You see it's completely pierced. This was not a small hole. And this is just monitoring the situation. You cannot have people up there for long enough to do serious work. This is look at the size of the people. That's a serious hole. Now again, going back to why this is such a big deal, going back to my source at CFF here. This attack, quoting, puts everything on hold and sets back the work on the sarcophagus stabilization and deconstruction by many years. The budget will be for this in the hundreds of millions of dollars, if not over $1 billion. Not only that, but the lack of a rail connection between Chernobyl and Slavutich means that personnel on site are limited, and there's no suitable plan in place to allow a reasonably sized workforce to continue to operate here. So, just to reiterate here, chat, this strike on this very technical structure created a large hole, of which, as far as I know, there's still some fires in there. It breached the outer cladding, but not the inner cladding, so currently there is no contamination escaping, and radiation readings confirm that. But this single strike on a highly technical structure might cost hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars. And it sets the decontamination of this whole area, the source of all this contamination, back by years. Kyle, is your source for this Ukrainian or Russian? Neither. CFF independently operates in where it's needed to operate. Michael Dukes gifting $500 to the CFF. Michael, all of your donations, of course, are tax deductible. It's a nonprofit that works with the people and animals in Ukraine. Thank you so much, Michael Dukes. That is incredibly generous. We appreciate you. Seriously. Thank you, Michael. So setting back the entire effort to clean up Chernobyl by years with a single strike. So I know some of you want, that's not a small hole, chat. So I get the sense that, oh, here's a good, they're monitoring the situation here in Ukraine every day. So I know some of you want me to say what some other, what you might not expect a science guy to say, but chat, why, if this was, you know, an offensive strike by an invading force, why do this, right? Why do something like this? Well, unlike taking over a power plant like Zaporizhia, Zaporizhia is an active power plant that gives a lot of power in Europe. And so if you take over Zaporizhia, it is a tactically advantageous thing to do. If you can control your adversary's source of power, you can control a lot about the fighting readiness of that force. However, Chernobyl does not produce power. Chernobyl is not misspelled in the donation thingy. That is the Ukrainian spelling. Chernobyl does not produce power, and so it does not have a tactical advantage in the same way. If I am being honest with all of you, and I hope that I can be, striking Chernobyl, striking a very, I mean, it's built to withstand earthquakes and stuff, but using military force to attack a, relatively speaking, fragile structure is to send a message and create fear. Now, sending a message and creating fear about nuclear power, nuclear waste, that is the definition of nuclear terrorism. I don't think that's crazy to say. The only reason why you would, if so, you know, sending a drone to Chernobyl, if you wanted to destroy it, you could destroy it with missiles. By doing it like this, it is showing that we can still strike inside your country at its most sensitive areas. And that is sending a message, but it's sending a message and spreading fear. Because even though in my videos I endeavor to show you just why the Chernobyl exclusion zone is not the nuclear wasteland you think it is. Rich, thank you for the 50, big 50. Chernobyl is not the nuclear wasteland you think it is. It's not. But attacking it in this way is terrorism. And it could become a danger to people and places in the area. So someone was saying, is the only update that it's going to take longer to decontaminate it? Well, this directly impacts the people, the workers, everyone in the area because of this single strike. And everything that I said about exactly where it struck, about the fire, about the amount of money that it might take to fix this and the amount of time, that hasn't been widely reported. Also, given the fact that we don't know how to fix this yet. When I first heard of this story, I, like you, may have said, oh, it's just a hole, right? It's just go up and patch up the hole. But the information that I'm getting now from CFF is that actually the rates around this hole prevent fixing the hole in any sort of timely fashion, which in turn pushes back the entire NSC project and puts people in danger. So in that way, I think that this is much worse than we thought, much worse than I thought. Maybe some of you are smarter than me. So what can we do? Well, what we're doing today is the little way that I can make an impact in this area that has made an impact on me. I've made Chernobyl a part of my life. I've made Chernobyl a part of my body. It's weirdly important to me. And working with the CFF has been very cool to actually have an impact on people and the wild dogs, especially in the area. So right now we are raising money for CFF, and they are giving supplies to people in the area and trying to support the workers who there's not many of them. They're tired. They in my opinion, this is a fine cause to support if you do have any extra dollars. Everything makes a difference to the people and pets around there. And I believe I'd have to double check that I think you and I, are the single largest donators to a single largest source of donations to the CFF. I think we've raised almost $100,000. And I'd like to continue being helpful in any way that I can. These oddly fascinating radioactive areas have changed my life. So in any small way that I can give back and support the people and places that are been so interesting to me, that's what I want to do. But chat, with that, I think, like we said, if you have any lingering or outstanding things that we didn't get to, let's do that now. Trinova Labs, thank you for the 5. Meme, thank you for the 10. Anonymous, thank you for the 5. Gundam07, thank you for the 20. Anonymous for the 20. Anonymous for the 50. Anonymous for the 20. Anonymous for the 50. I dream of crafting with the 5. Does the CFF get money from Ukraine? The CFF operates as a nonprofit organization out of Chicago, well, not Chicago, but out of Illinois in the United States. They've been operating in the area since 2016, even I think before the NSC got moved into place. And the majority of what they do is helping the people and pets in that area. And I cannot wait to go back, to be honest. The dogs are so cute. Anonymous, thank you for the 50. Mama Lauren, thank you for the 50. DK Devil, thank you for the 20. It's incredible. Foot update. Not for free. Elephant's foot update. I don't know anything new about the elephant's foot other than it is currently deteriorating in a basement. Does the dome increase the localized concentration of radiation from it being contained, or is it absorbed, or does it not work that way, says James Hansen. James, the NSC is basically just a shell, 2 shells around the nuclear power plant. Everything... In terms of dust, everything will be contained inside of the NSC thanks to dust suppression systems. But you can't. But the NSC does not block all of the gamma radiation coming out of the sarcophagus. No. But like I said, it's so big that it provides a standoff distance that if you are outside of it, the rates of radiation are not a danger to you. But inside of the NSC, where I went, it's 200 times higher, and I only stayed inside for 15 minutes. Anonymous, thank you for the 50. Feminal Panda, I don't know what that means. Thank you for the 20. Is 5 to 10 is 5 to 10 millisieverts bad on contact? Yes. Don't go anywhere near anything with 5 to 10 millisieverts. So what I just said, chat, I said 20 microsieverts when I was inside. 20 millisieverts is 1,000 times higher than that. So you're talking about something thousands of times higher than outside of the sarcophagus. 5 to 10 millisieverts is even higher than what's on the bottom of the boots that are discarded in the Pripyat hospitals by the firefighters. Don't go near anything like that. Michaela, thank you for the 20. Radio Rad with the 20. Anonymous, thank you for the 20. So no selfies with the elephant's foot? Look, I would, but no, too dangerous. I do have a video that I took 4 years ago. I haven't published it yet. It's a full interview with one of the men who took those photos of the elephant's foot. But I never got around to it, and he's fine. He looks healthier than I do. But I'm hoping to eventually release that interview with him. And he didn't say he touched it, but he implied that he touched it. He's actually the person who taught me about TDS, time distance shielding. And that's what he said. I'm like, well, weren't you afraid? He said, time distance shielding. As long as you're not spending too much time around it, you put as much stuff in between you and the object, and you stay far enough away for as short a time as possible, that will act to make your exposure to radiation as small as it can be. Highest I've ever been inside was 10 millirem, so you've got me beat. Well, 10 rems and sieverts are not equivalent. So your 10 mrem per hour, you'd have to divide by 100 to get to sieverts, which if we do that is 0.1 millisieverts per hour, which is 100 microsieverts per hour, correct? So that is extremely hot. But I've been in 100 micro before, when I was about 100 meters away from the failed reactors in Fukushima. Mark Robinson with the 100, Inquisitor with the 20. You guys are amazing. Shakte, frequent member, commenter, chatter. Thank you, Shakte, for the 20. Kirk McCullough with the 20. Appreciate it. Anonymous It's been 4 years? Yeah, I'll look like a baby if I post it. But I do have the full interview with one of the people who took those famous photos of the elephant's foot. I just have to get it fully translated and posted. But there's a lot of things that, sorry, my fan keeps blowing on my, we have a lot of, my nuclear travel videos are piling up. Next up, I think we have a new Half-Life history about Carl Sagan, then one about an orphan source in Ukraine, then 2 videos from TerraPower, which is the company that's going to have the first next generation reactor in the United States. We have 2 videos from there, so it's going to be a lot. Hey, Kyle, how long will it take? Mark, again, thank you for the 100. Hey, Kyle, how long will it take for the containment structure to no longer be necessary? The NSC was initially built to last 100 years. My sample of uranite, do you mean uranium? Is around 100 micro. That's extremely hot for a sample. Anonymous, thank you for the 10. Natalia, thank you for the 20. Man, your avatar looks cool. Will this impact Ukraine winning the war? Probably not. But it sows fear throughout a population that may or may not understand radiation, right? I've said this before in videos, but Chernobyl, the explosion and the initial high levels of radiation that the liquidators fought through killed 30 people, 31 depending on what you're reading. 30 people. But the fear of what happened in Chernobyl spreading across Europe, which didn't spread across all of Europe, but spreading across Europe, it led to an estimated at least 100,000 elective abortions. Sorry, I know that's going to be triggering for some of you, but think of that. The fear, countries away, the exclusion zone's radius is 30 kilometers, but countries away in Greece, their birth rate fell because the women were so afraid of giving birth to affected babies. Maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000. That is a direct result of misinformation and unchecked fear of radiation. Now you know why a nuclear terrorist attack like this is so impactful. It's not just a hole. When you do this, you sow fear throughout a population that can have huge effects. Okay? So it is worse than I thought, you know? And in doing videos like this, I don't want to make light of the situation. I'm not just trying to make content just to react to it. I'm actively trying to answer questions about radiation contamination that you may have and do my best to affect affect the world in a positive way. That's all. What's going on, says the Stoned Wizard. Well, sober up and I'll tell you. New Year Cam donating $150. New Year Cam, you are the New Year man. What if they use a crane to place a sheet of metal? Anime fan, this thing is over 300 feet tall. That is not an easy task, getting a gigantic piece of equipment through a country that's currently being invaded. My lab source of americium is 10 millisieverts per hour. Well, BChem, that's in a laboratory. Do iodine pills actually work? Iodine pills only work if you are going to experience contamination that is iodine. Is it iodine 90? No. So no, it's like 131 or something. Anyway, there can be radioactive iodine that can get into a population and contaminate it. But It doesn't actively remove contamination. What iodine pills do is give your thyroid enough iodine such that it doesn't seek to take any more iodine in. So you could ingest radioactive iodine, but then your thyroid says, oh, no, I have enough, and it passes through you. That's how iodine pills work. It is different than how an active chelator works, or a chemical that goes inside your body, binds with contamination, and then it gets excreted. That's what Prussian blue does, and we have a video about that too, tying in the Fallout universe if you want to check that out. Anonymous, thank you for the 5. Cake or death? Choosing cake with the 20. Appreciate it. Cheers for your work. It speaks to me in my work. I work with linear accelerators and sources of iridium-92 and cobalt-60, says Zuri. I am constantly impressed and amazed by how many smart, productive, intelligent people come to these chats. So thank you. I appreciate you saying as much. Brian Jordan with the 100 completely tax-deductible donation. Thank you so much. With time, will the radiation start to leak out? Well, hopefully not. That's the idea. Would Russian ownership increase safety, scientifically speaking? Thousands of employees, I missed a 250. Thousands of employees have been working at the nuclear power plant for many years, keeping it perfectly safe. I do not see a good argument. I do not see a good argument for the Russian takeover of Chernobyl, nor do I think just keeling over and giving Russia any part of Ukraine, none of which belongs to Russia. I think that's, imagine asking an American to do that. You know what I mean? I think especially people in America don't really get the actual, how it would actually feel to have a country invade you, because we're surrounded. We have like one of the best geostrategic placements on the planet. We don't really we don't feel threatened. But if you were surrounded by countries, one of which is giant and could eat you up, you would have a different feeling. Oh, why don't they just secede? Well, why don't they just cede some territory? It's like, that's like asking America to give up Florida, even though personally, Scott Willis, frequent person on the channel, thank you for the $250 donation. You're fantastic. Just give 3 Mile Island back to Britain. No, it's silly. Kiev is the original capital of ancient Russia. Well, what year is it? Oh. How much of, if Mexico invades the United States, how much should we give back? At least the Gulf, right? We should give back the Gulf. Chat, I don't want to get to, if you have, let's keep technical radiation questions. Let's not get too bogged down in the politics of this. What I'm interested in is helping the mission of maintaining and stabilizing Chernobyl and the surrounding areas. You know, this isn't related to the NSC, but what's with the frame scaffolding thing near the sarcophagus? Is it for working on it or near it? So what? What you are talking about is this stuff here, right? So you have to remember that the sarcophagus itself was pretty hastily built. Within 1 year, they had all of this material, all this concrete slammed up against this very, very, very dangerous few square meters. Kyle's a Ukrainian shill. Yeah, I hate... Oh, man. I hate people. I hate independent democratic countries being... saying that they should have their own land that is theirs. Dude, I'm raising money for radioactive puppies. What do you want from me, dog? So this was hastily built in just like 8 months, I think. A tremendous, hyper dangerous, stick to the science, hyper dangerous construction thing. construction effort, right? But because it was so hastily built, over time, it needs support, updating. You can't just let this thing fall apart, because if you let this thing fall apart, the excursion of dust and debris would be tremendous, or could be tremendous. So I imagine, I don't know all the technicalities of the NSC, but a lot of this is support, and then some of it is to support the cranes that hopefully will eventually go, like my cursor is doing, like a giant crane machine like you'd play with, go and take pieces of the sarcophagus and dismantle it over time. Anthony Snyder, thank you for the 20. Where do we go from here? Unfortunately, like I said, why this is kind of worse than we thought, we don't know. Or at least the powers that be at CHNPP, Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, as they spell it, they don't know what to do. The dose rates are too high to have people work on that gigantic hole for extended periods of time. It would be hard to get large equipment in. It would be hard to make robots to fix it. And it would be extremely hard to move this thing that could fit the Statue of Liberty inside it back to where it was originally made, so it's far enough away from radiation that you could fix it. We don't know. Yadnis, thank you for the 5. Barf Bag, thank you for the 50. Yeah. So just to be clear, chat, why is it worse than Fukushima? Just to be clear, chat. Hi, glorious hair man. Hello. What was I saying? Who just asked something? Anyway, why Chernobyl is worse than Fukushima is there was no containment building over the RBMK, not like modern reactors have. So when this exploded, it exploded into the open air, and then it burned for like 7 days, like burning graphite, which just sounds dangerous. And that threw up material with the fire being literally dust and fission products being lifted up and dispersed by fire. And why that also happened in Fukushima, not in the same way because there was containment buildings, but fission products like cesium-137 did escape in Japan. It followed a plume and then deposited over an area that followed the weather there. What makes Chernobyl worse is that because the reactor itself exploded into the open air, it flung uncountable tiny shreds of actual fuel into the surrounding area. Now, if you'll permit me for a second, let me just go back to my own channel. I want to show you how scary these things are. This is why Chernobyl's worse than Fukushima. So when I was in Chernobyl, as you see me there, in the forest, here we are looking for a radioactive particle. Now, this particle that you see here, this particle where my cursor is, that is smaller than a grain of rice, that is smaller, that is almost grain of rice. Yeah, that's about the size of a grain of sand. A grain of sand. And it breaks the meter. This is a fancy meter. And this sized particle maxes it out. That. Okay. Now, times that by millions of particles, probably. And why is Chernobyl worse? Because if you're walking around the exclusion zone and that gets stuck to your boot, or you inhale it, that is bad. Envious of your hair, Kyle? Yeah, I know. It's, I mean, what are you going to do? Hey, brother, what are the end units? So I think he's measuring counts per second. Anonymous, thank you for the 5. So what is that? what is that? Micro REM? It's probably in REM. Off scale. 500 micro REM? No. Yeah, maybe. Oh yeah, it might be in REM. So if that's 500 micro REM, that's 5 microsieverts, which is no. I have that backwards. This is off scale on this detector. You can't take that 500 reading. Couldn't actually see what the unit was. You can't take that 500 reading because it's maxing it out. The point being, chat, clickbait trash. How so? Explain it. Chris, explain yourself right now. I'll wait. Go ahead, Chris. I'll wait. So that's why Chernobyl is worse than Fukushima. Because that kind of scary stuff. Good. Question, Mr. Hillhead. What amount of radiation exposure do you need to start having noticeable effects? The smallest amount of radiation dose within like a year that we link to a higher risk of cancer in your lifetime is about 100 millisieverts per year. 100 MSV. Can we get a quick summary of how Chernobyl was breached? Yes, sure. You just hit the rewind button down there. Just so everyone is aware, the background radiation in the UK is about 0.1 millisievert. That was showing 500 as the max. No, it's not. No, the background, you're thinking of micro, Harry. Milli and micro are different, people. Milli means 1/1000th. Micro means 1/1,000,000th. If you had a background rate in the UK of 0.1 millisieverts, that means you have 100 micro sieverts per hour, which means you're basically living next to the Fukushima reactor. Why is your beard white? Says Hungry Owl. Are you guys okay? Because I'm distinguished, clearly. Oh, okay. See, I love how many smart people are in the chat. That model that you just looked at says Zuri. I know that detector. That's a Ludlum 2061. The limit on that scale is 500 millirentgen per hour. Okay. So that means that was 5 millisieverts per hour, which means that was maxing, that was beyond 5,000 microsieverts. Okay, so now to show it, to again explain why this is so scary. 5,000 micro. That's like 25,000 times. No, let me show you something. All right. So why is Chernobyl more dangerous? Because you have hot particles like that strewn about the environment. Now, what my friend Zori in the chat just said was 5,000 or 500 millirentgen per hour. Now, let me just make sure that Wolfram Alpha knows what that is. Nope. Millirentgens, thank you. Okay. Millirentgens per hour. Now, let's say you were walking through the Chernobyl exclusion zone and you got part of it stuck on your boot, and it was stuck on your boot until you left the exclusion zone where they screen you to make sure you don't have some contamination. That is 4 Rentgen, which means it is 0.04 sieverts. Oh, crap. No, it's 0.04. Yeah. 0.04 sieverts. which is the maximum yearly equivalent radiation dose permitted for a radiation worker. So that is why hot particles are scary. I am talking about something the size of a grain of rice getting stuck on your boot or your clothes, or God forbid you inhale it, and in less than a day, you get your maximum dose for a year. So if we do this, let's just say you didn't find it. You didn't find it for 24 hours. You could have just multiplied by, I know. Let's say you didn't find that for 24 hours. You know, that's 0.12 C. We're getting dangerous now. It's 0.12 sieverts. Oops, what the heck did I do? Oh, there we go. I hit the screenshot button. You didn't find it for a day. You didn't find your hot particle for a day, and you have, in one day, you have increased your risk of getting cancer. That's why it's scary. Okay? That's why this stuff is scary, chat. I'm so scared for the people in Ukraine. Holy crap. The radiation from the NSC is not the problem. Right now, the NSC is contained but crippled in its own way. And what you should be worried about is the invasion. How do gray units measure versus sieverts? A fun rule of thumb that I learned from a radiation protection textbook is the acronym or mnemonic device, SG 100 RRR. I know it doesn't exactly fly off the tongue, but SG 100 RRR. So sieverts are roughly equivalent in dose, or in what they do, to grays, and those are 100 times Röntgens, REMS, RADs. So to go from sieverts to sieverts to Röntgens, RADs, you multiply by 100, and to go to the other way, you divide by 100. Remember that. It has helped me so much in these discussions. Nuclear or geothermal for the future? Nuclear. This might, I mean, it might not make sense unless you think about it, but you can simultaneously be very aware of nuclear disasters, but very pro-nuclear power. In all of the major nuclear disasters, and I've been to all three of them personally with my own 2 feet, it has all been human error combined with obvious design error. Not an inherent problem with the technology. Not something baked into it. What about Curies? Curies is not a measure of dose rate. Curies is a measure of raw activity of a source. So Curies is a way to make the original unit becquerels, because it was that's the name of the man who discovered radioactivity, Henri Becquerel. That's raw disintegrations per second. Pew, 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 pew. But activity can be so high that Curies reduces that number to something that's workable. It's the same way that you could say light years, but some people say parsecs, because parsecs is a way to divide that light year value to make it more workable. But Curies and Becquerels, Henri Becquerel, that's pure activity that is not a dose rate. So it's not sieverts, grays, RENs, Röntgens, RADs. Kyle, do we know how extensive the damage is to the sarcophagus? The sarcophagus was not damaged. The NSC is the dome over it, and the sarcophagus is inside. If you want to know more, rewind this sweet, sweet video. What is the state of the elephant's foot? It is constantly decaying as the nuclear material inside of the elephant's foot goes through its half-lives, of which it's gone through about, what, 1.5? Something like that? Whew. Why is working with radiation so dang confusing? It's not really. There's a lot of technicality to it, but you can work in and around radiation as long as you follow two principles. That's ALARA and TDS. We've already talked about what TDS is, time distance shielding. Stay the minimum amount of time, keep the maximum amount of stuff between you and the source, and stay as far away as is possible. ALARA is as low as reasonably achievable. So if you have to work with radiation, do everything you can to get the lowest dose possible. Do not take excess chances or risks. Do not make it so that something bad could happen. Think around those, think about what you're going to do, what you're going to do it with, and then apply those general principles as spending as little time with the thing as possible. And I know I've met many, many, many smart people. Alara Reborn, you magic nerd. I've met many, many people who work with radiation that are very smart, very talented, and you'll see a lot of those people in some of our upcoming videos. I just went to TerraPower, another extremely exciting nuclear company that's going to have the next generation reactor in the United States, the first next generation reactor in the United States. Some of them work, I mean, they're already working with nuclear material. Some of them are even in the chat. They're members of this channel, and I met them. That's what I love about you and I having these discussions, is that there's just so many smart people here. Will a new NSC have to be made? No, that would take way too long and cost way too much money. Kyle, if you could see the elephant's foot with your own eyes, would you do it? 100%. Anonymous, thank you for the 20. Right. Before we go too far, chat, just to remind you, we are raising money for the Clean Futures Foundation, or fund. I always mix that up. It's a fund and a foundation. But the Clean Futures Fund, which raises money to get supplies to the people in and around the Chernobyl exclusion zone, especially the dogs of Chernobyl, which we've raised almost $100,000 for. And that is to give them shelters, food, and then to study them. Because what's interesting about the dogs of Chernobyl is that we don't really have a good source of data for human-sized mammals and what low levels of radiation can do to them. That's why the dogs are so interesting, because in studying the dogs, we have a natural population exposed to low levels of ionizing radiation that can tell us, as an animal model, something about how ionizing radiation affects mammals, right? And that's fascinating. There's no other population of animals like that in the world. Are they mutated? Yes, but not from the radiation, more so from inbreeding. And that is why, that's part of what the CFF and I raised money for, because the CFF goes to Chernobyl, captures the dogs, tags them, studies them, releases them, but also vaccinates, spays and neuters them for population control. Why go in and spay and neuter? They're just a population of nice little dogs. Because if you let a population like that get out of control, that they will get so inbred that they will just die from genetic disorders. Iridium-92. I knew it. I was close. No, iodine. What's iodine? 131? Alex Friel, frequent watcher, member of the channel, gifting 50. Katari Patarsky with the 50. Thank you so much to both of you. Kolagon's Command pays one in black and a red to donate $5. Sam with the 20. John Anon with the 20. Firebolt with the 5. It's 131. How much of a risk would it be for workers to repair that hole? That's what we were going through, chat. That's actually the issue. That's why this was worse than we thought, because according to my source, again, anonymous for safety, but according to my source at the CFF, who works with people on the ground here, Magna, thank you for the 50. I bought a radio code. Thank you so much. Official Geiger counter of the facility. According to the CFF, the rates here are too high to have continued repair work being done. And so we don't actually know how to fix this hole. And the longer it's open, the more things can go wrong. I've had it in my pocket for about 12 hours. It's peaking on Iridium-131. Yeah, don't put Iridium-131 in your pocket, though. At least not for, you know, a whole day. WJM, thank you for the 5. Are the dogs aggressive towards people? No, actually not. The dogs, if you'll permit me, are incredibly... So the dogs are wild now, chat. They move with like a pack mentality. They kind of police each other like a pack. You can see alphas and kind of the the hierarchies of a population. But they are very wary of people, as are most wild animals. The dogs that live near the power plant, they love people because people are the only people that feed them. The workers at the power plant feed them. So they're very friendly. But the dogs that are roaming around the woods, they stay far away from you. And the dogs are incredibly smart. The CFF actually has to change their uniforms year to year because the dogs remember who they are and what they're trying to do, trying to grab them, you know. Vindrasi, thank you for the 50. That's incredible. I wanted to show you something. Emily, thank you for the 12. You know, so I'll show you two things. So the dogs do generally stay away from you. $69,000. Nice. But these dogs were right next to me. These dogs are laying down next to me. And these dogs are hanging out. So I'll show you two examples. First of all, I mean, come on. Come on. Look at this little puppy. Look how cute these guys are. They're beautiful. They're like a combination. They're a mutt of all of the pets that were left behind. A lot of them were like, you know, really nice dogs. And so you have this beautiful, it's not quite a breed, but it's close to it. Look at these pups. Come on. So two examples. So here's some of the CFF, some of the work that we do here. So now watch this. So here was me in Chernobyl City, rather. Patricia, thank you for the 20. Here's me in Chernobyl City, like a young man. And I was doing a little piece to camera about the dogs, and then the dogs naturally came up to me. But what you'll see is that this dog, maybe, or another dog, it will do like a territory thing. You'll see it being like, get away. I wanted pets. You'll see it. So look, so this dog's like, yeah, pets. I love getting pets. And then this dog's like, get off my turf. So there's the growl. And then they all move off. It's like, I'm the one who's going to be getting food. I'm the one who's doing this. And then that dog kind of leads the other dogs out of that area. They're all like they're all obviously following the lead of this pack leader dog here. But yeah, I mean, come on. But again, so are the dogs friendly? I mean, look at this. This is me. I mean, some of them are quite visibly injured. But here's me walking through the cafe in Pripyat. And these dogs just follow me around. They're just good boys. I'm back. You sent me down a Prussian blue rabbit hole. Well, you can also watch our video that we made about it if you want. But yeah, chat. They're good. They're good boys and girls. Anyway. Zero chance Russia did this. No, I think it's probably much higher than that. Can we get a recap of the cold hard facts, please? Drone strike pierced the outer cladding of the NSC. It was pressurized. There was no through hole all the way down into where the sarcophagus was. So there's no excursion of contamination at this time. However, because of the drone strike happening on a very sensitive, enormous structure, it has pushed all of the operations and decontamination efforts of that structure back years and billions or hundreds of millions, if not over $1 billion. We can't get in to work on it because the dose rates are too high and it would be too difficult to do so. And there's a shortage of workers because the access way to the nearest town has been cut off during the invasion. Thank you, Lord Orion, for the 50. If they remove the NSC to repair it, would they need to wait for the absorption of radiation, says Jeff Foxon. So what you're talking about is a phenomenon called activation. And that only happens when neutrons are flying out of something, hitting an object, and actually adding neutrons to that object, or the atoms in that object. And so when you add neutrons to an object, you can make that atom unstable, and then it can get radioactive itself, and then it gets activated, so to speak. That is not the kind of radiation coming out of the reactor unit 4 in the sarcophagus. It's gamma radiation that's making its way out. So to answer your question, no, you would not need the NSC to cool down if you moved it, but I'm guessing you'd have to do extensive and careful cleaning of it just to make sure that that no contamination is actually on the NSC when you move it, and it's not all contained in one place. Borum asking for the 50th time in chat, what do you think of T-Fulse Nuclear? I know that he's reacted to a number of my videos as an expert, where he watches my videos in full and then talks over them. That's what I know about him. Dead Videos donated $50. Chernobyl is not very random. What? What? What is your beard care? I can't tell you. I'd have to kill you. No cats in Chernobyl? There are cats in Slavutich and in Chernobyl City. People take care of them. And the CFF that we work with, that we're raising money for today, does also provide supplies and spaying and neutering for the cats. However, inside the exclusion zone, there's almost no cats. Inside of, yeah, I know. Inside the exclusion zone, like the woods, there's almost no cats because it's the woods, and there's still large predators out there. Not only are there the dogs, there's also wolves and bears. It's not, house cats are not great at surviving out there. Need to introduce bobcats and cougars? Why? What's your favorite Ukrainian dish to eat? Derp, I know this is going to sound like a poser, but when I was in Kyiv, my mom used to make me chicken Kyiv all the time. I love chicken Kyiv, or Kiev, but it's pronounced Kyiv. And so when I went to a traditional Ukrainian restaurant in Kyiv, I ordered the chicken Kyiv because I wanted to see, well, how much better is it here? It was delicious. It was incredible. Yaoguai. Why would either side attack Chernobyl knowing how dangerous it is? As a form of nuclear terrorism, as a way to scare a population with a single, explosion. It's almost the definition of terrorism, actually. Chernobyl was breached. How bad exactly? Rewind the video. Kyle, what's your favorite radionuclide? I'm partial to cesium-137. Can we use helicopters to repair the NSC and also reduce exposure? How would you get that close to the hole? You're still sending people down, right? The dose rates prevent sending people for extended periods of time around this giant hole. This community is the best in YouTube. It's pretty. Hey, for tackling a technical, complicated, and semi-political topic, I think all of you in chat are doing pretty good. How many Rentgen is it? How many Rentgen is what? In certain spots around the NSC, you could be working in an area that is, I assume you're not just making a reference to the HBO show. If you want the actual answer, I got it for you. But it would be around in the hot spots like 100 microsieverts per hour, which in Rentgen is going to be 10,000 micro Rentgen per hour. So a lot. Anonymous, thank you for the 10. Yeah, the dose rate is currently preventing workers there from actively repairing the hole, which still has a smoldering fire in it. Didn't Mythbusters make a lead balloon? Yes, they did. It was one of the hardest things. Adam tells me it's one of the hardest things they've ever had to do. I'm going to keep asking, what could this cause? Pushback in the dismantling and remediation of the most contaminated place on the planet. Could you use a crane on helicopters? Says Delza Melza. It is hard to move huge equipment through an active war zone. And if you have a bunch of helicopters in an active war zone, I'm going to guess that you'd probably want to use them for the active war. Dead videos again. Oh, with the 150 this time. This is incredible. I honestly did not expect this much support today. Thank you all for doing so. It's incredible. I'm even going much further than much longer than we usually do for office hours to answer any and all questions you may have. There's still fire from the drone, as my contacts at CFS say. At least as of like 2 days ago, there's still smoldering fire because you can't get in there for long enough to look at like up to 100 meters away from where the explosion actually happened. That's serious, you know. By the way, I'm delaying ads as much as I can, chat, but will the end of the world be televised or streamed? It'll probably be streamed. Is the webcam for the new safe confinement still live? Maybe? I don't know. For the doggers. Appreciate it. The dogs are incredibly cute. And especially around, you know, winter time. Winter in Ukraine is very, very cold. Why can't we use drones to look at the damage? We have. Well, I haven't. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. Not this one. Not this one. It's amazing. Why can't we? Yeah. So why can't we use drones to look at the damage? We have. I have some drone footage here, actually. Here's some drone footage. Is there a higher rate of cancer in Ukraine? Probably from Chernobyl? No. Why can't we use drones to fix it? Do you know of a drone that can actively replace a giant structure like? Chat. How are drones going to fix that? Kelsey Poorman with the 100. Thank you so much. Katie, appreciate you being here. Disinformation about this is about to go crazy. Well, I mean, this happened like over 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. So that's different. I mean, it's already happening. You know. Yeah, you need a drone that can cut. You need a drone that can weld. You need a drone big enough to put materials down and then weld those into place. You need it. I mean, we don't have drones that can do that. Rudy Roops, thanks for being here. Use firefighting drones from China. The fires are inside of this shell. There's two layers to this, and you're saying you want a drone. Chat, flying a drone through this is not going to work. What would happen if we nuke Chernobyl? That'd be very bad. Nuking anything is bad. What are the dimensions of the hole? I don't know the exact dimensions, but you can use these people for size comparisons. What if you just put a big drone and fill the hole? Like we were saying, chat. Another technicality of this, to keep this as safe as possible, this inner area, so this top part was breached. This top cladding was breached. This inner pink area that you're seeing here, that is positively pressurized. So to keep material inside of this large volume, if it was, you know, if there was a breach from the interior, you want this to be positively pressurized so air goes in like a balloon and not out. So you need this to be airtight. So you can't just park a, I mean, here's another image of the drone. You can't just park something over this hole. You just dump a clad on top of it and solder it all. That is made harder by the fact that you can't have people working here for an extended period of time because the dose rates are too high. They have giant crates inside, yes, but they are attached to the interior of the building like the skeleton of a turtle. There's no way to get those out here. Wouldn't this strike also endanger the people living in Russia? Not with anything contamination-wise. It damages the people living in Russia because it further makes the perception of Russia on the world stage deteriorate. Send in Elon, let him close it. Yeah, no, I'd be fine with Elon just being sealed in there if you want. Sir Nanigans, thank you for the 5. Don't bring turtles into this. Yeah, I'm making good science communication comparisons. Could they combine a drone and a surgery machine to do the repairs? Chat, I don't know what you got. I don't know what companies you guys are looking at, but do you know of any sort of drone that... Chat, come on. Chat, what are we talking about here? Oh, yeah, no, what did... I think the workers... I think so. I have some patches. I actually met some people who were taken hostage when Chernobyl was invaded. I met some of the people that were taken hostage. Incredible people, incredibly resilient people. When we were getting messages, encrypted messages from them, they weren't saying, I'm so scared. They weren't saying, you know, get me out of here. You know, I'm terrified. What they were saying was, don't worry, we will soon expel the invaders. Slava Ukraini. They were incredibly courageous people. I kind of forgot where I was going with this. Oh, right. They made some patches. I have some patches that they signify that they were some of the people that were, oh yeah, I remember, okay, taken hostage. But when they got out, what they said is, no, we'd be happy to show Putin around and then we'd close the door. You just ask. If Putin wants to come down here himself and check out Chernobyl, it's fine, but we're going to lock him in. Bunch of badasses. Tyler Stevens, recognize your name. Thank you for the 50. Do we know what's on fire? So the fire has currently, as far as I know, smoldering fire up to 100 meters away from the impact site. How could you fix this? We don't actually know how to fix this. We're thinking... I keep saying we're, it's not me, but I hear from my contact, possibly robots, but they'd have to build and make these robots from scratch. Possibly moving the entire, we take this NSC and we push it somewhere else, and then we fix it there so we're not around the radiation. Danny Does, thank you for the 20. Zelensky said the fire is out, look it up. Chat. Blue Raven, thank you for the 5. Appreciate it. I see, isn't this old news? No. Chat, I see we're meandering towards non-related questions a little bit. Just build a bigger NSC and push it over the... I see we're getting a little off track here, chat. This video will be up on the main channel. You can still donate at any time to the CFF, which helps the people and pets and animals, wildlife inside of the Chernobyl exclusion zone and at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. I'm already blown away. I'm already blown away by the amount of support we've done in just 90 minutes, but we can continue to support the CFF and what they do there for the duration that this video is going to be up, which is going to be forever. But Chad, I've been blown away by your support. I hope on my end, I was able to be at least a little bit informative, that I at least explained why the title and thumbnail make the situation seem so dire. I believe that we got at why it is worse than I think most of us thought. Delza, thank you for the 5. Dead Videos with another 100. Thank you, Delza and Dead Videos. You're absolute champions. We've raised $5,000. Are you serious? That is Bits of Geek with the 114. Are you biased in a kind of way? I'm biased in that Chernobyl is a fascinating place with a fascinating history, and I've been there, and I've made it a part of my work, and I support the dogs and the charities there. So I'm slightly biased in not wanting all of that to be harmed and go away. Yes, I am biased towards people and animals not being harmed by an invading force. Yeah, I'm biased towards that. 51. That's incredible, guys. I was expecting something like $200. 5.2. That's incredible, y'all. It's amazing. You're a loser. Sick. But chat, this outpouring support has been amazing. I hope that I have been at least somewhat informative about what has happened and what is happening. I hope that our little background, little technical discussion gives you a better idea of exactly what the NSC is, exactly what's happening at Chernobyl, what happened in the beginning, why it is more dangerous than Fukushima, what's going on there with the dogs, who works there, and when. Master with the 200, Leptron with the 5, Callum with the 25. Incredible. How much of the NSC is depressurized? The interior of the cladding has now been depressurized, and we don't know how to fix it yet. Chat. The amount of smart, generous people in here are absolutely amazing. Already at 5.5. That's incredible. Chat. I hope, again, for my part, I just want to make a small difference for the people and for the place that has made such a difference in my life. So if I can help a population in some way, thank you for helping me do that. The Dwarf, thank you for the 50. Anyway, I hope that I have earned your generosity and that you've learned something today. I know I have. Thank you all for being here. And, you know, the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months have been extremely rough, but all I can say, keep it here for more, hopefully less catastrophic nuclear news, nuclear science. I have Half-Life Histories, our documentary series. 2 of those are already in the can and coming up. Those will be very interesting. I have 2 travel videos from the company that's making the first next generation nuclear reactor in the United States, videos about nuclear medicine, about molten sodium reactors. We have a lot of very cool stuff coming up. So chat, I hope you stay with me. Thank you for your incredible support today. And until I see you next time, wherever that is, let's be nice to each other, because this is all we got. I'll see you soon.